Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Manna Church. I'm Pastor Dave Sains. Shabbat Shalom to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad and believers in Yeshua Messiah. Thanks for joining us here at Hidden Manna. It is our Sabbath morning discussion. We're grateful that you guys are with us. I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are, East Coast, West Coast, checking us out. You guys know the format. If you're here for the first time, actually, hanging out with us, I certainly want to encourage you, if you enjoyed this, to subscribe, be part of what we do here at Living Manna Church. We got a whole bunch of different ministries and teachings and all sorts of stuff that you can be part of. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell so you're notified when we do go live. And with that, Brother Max, how you doing, man? Rapping. Gee, haven't done that in a long time. I mean, the closest I get to rapping was like a gift or something now. How you doing, man? Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Oh, yes, that's right, man. You celebrated a birthday this week, right? And you got your... Well, when I catch up to you, let me know. And I know your son also has a birthday coming up real soon, too. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Good for him, man. Good for him. No one can hear you. I can hear you really good. Let me just let's make sure. Let's 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 try that again. Let's see what we got here. Let me see. Go ahead. So, hold on a sec. We're a little lag behind. Yeah, hold on a second. You should be coming up in just a second. Let's see if I fixed it. All right. Go ahead, bro. Say something. No, I'm not hearing you on this, and I don't know why. All right, let me just do this again. Let's see what happens. Because I can hear you fine. Yeah, still nothing. And let's hope for PM if he's anywhere around. Here he is. He just got in on me. Go ahead, brother.
Top right hand side, the volume button. See where it's at.
We're about halfway through.
No, top right hand side on the computer, volume button. Top of the computer, right hand side. Click the volume. See where it's coming out of.
Got Telestream Auto, and it's all the way up.
Nope. Put it on. Scroll it.
There we go. All right. Ooh, I even got your name up there over your thing now, brother. I don't know why, and it just messed up your whole. Hopefully, you guys can hear him. We're lagging a little bit behind everybody, so we don't know if it's actually going to work. Try it again, brother. Yeah, guys, if you can hear us, so I know you guys can hear me, but if you, oh man, we can't hear you at all, brother. Yeah, I mean, it's a. I don't know sign language. All right, let's see. I don't even have you, brother. I can't even hear you. I'm trying to listen on YouTube at the same time while I'm listening to you in my ear. Yeah, we got. Go ahead, brother.
Try a different side.
Yep. Yeah, let's try this. Let's see if this helps at all. Can see how you guys hear this. We're gonna try a different slide here and see if that makes up any of the difference on the audio.
You hear Max, right?
Go ahead, Max. Let me hear you. So I can hear Max for sure. And I don't think anybody's hearing him still.
On the top right hand side, you have it selected with volume.
Of course.
QI2 or Mac Main.
Scarlet 212. Yeah, that's a little crazy. Yeah, I know. I know what to do here. It's probably not the best thing to do, but it's the only way we're going to both be able to hear each other, or really everybody else hear you, is to I'll do it this way. Sorry guys for the technical. It's been like technical difficulties every week, which is crazy. Nice and loud. Yep, that's the way we're going to do it. It works.
Let me know if you can hear me. Tell me if you can hear me online. Give me a thumbs up.
All right, not necessary for me to have these on. You can hear, I know Max can hear me, and if you guys can hear us online, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, if you can hear me, let me know.
Yeah, they should be able to hear us now.
Let's go if you guys
We're good.
can hear. Okay, we got a thumb up. All right. Hey.
We're
all
good.
right.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Yeah, I'll turn it up just a little bit so people can get a good sound. It's not going to be the best sound, but it's going to be a sound. At least we can talk. At least we can go through this thing. This is what you call jury rigging. Making it work. Making it work. So sorry, guys. This is live TV. Hey, you know what? I don't feel so bad, man. I saw them do the same thing on Fox. I saw them do the same thing on Newsmax. You know,
And
so.
they got, like multi-million-dollar budgets.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're doing the best we can with $1.50.
Yeah. Hey, Sister Karen's listening. You can send me down an iPad. Has even better sound, and it'll help us out. So.
Yeah, let everyone know. You're only hearing me very faint because we're doing this over our phones.
Yes. But if Sister K is listening and she can help us out, I would appreciate that. Sister K to the rescue. Yeah, they're saying you sound a little bit off to the distance.
Yeah, I'm going to try to hold it a little bit closer to my, I'm going to put it on my laptop here up here. I'm going to sit a little bit closer to the camera only because I'm leaning in so you can hear me on the phone.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit better, but hopefully Sister Karen's heard me, and she's going to be along with my something else. But for right now, this is what we got. This is what we got, so this is what we're going to use. All right. Well, again, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Oh, Sister K.
Can I give you mine?
Yeah, whichever you got. I'll take anything, so long as it's nice and loud. Thank you, dear. All right, let's try this one.
Oh, I gotta give you my.
Nope, that's all right. That's all right. We're gonna have to go with this.
It's like we promised everyone.
No, we're gonna have to.
Why?
Chatting on Shabbat.
It happens, man. What are you gonna do? It's been like this all week long. Almost every thing we've been doing, we've been having gremlins.
Yeah, I'm just glad we have power today. We had a really bad windstorm last night.
Can everybody hear a little bit better now? I hope. Give us a shout out if you can.
Give you a little test, everyone. How are we
You hear me better?
sounding today?
Yeah, just give us a test 1, 2, Max.
Test 1 2 1 2 testing.
Yeah, it sounds like you're way off in a tunnel. If you can get your mic a little bit closer to you somehow, that'd be awesome.
It's not going through. Is it going through the mic or just the phone?
No, it should be going through your mic. So put your mic. No, actually,
All right.
your mic closer to you, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to speak right into it.
Any closer, I'd be kissing it.
Yeah, kiss it.
2 inches.
That's what you got to do. Yeah, bring that mic right up to you, brother.
That's it. That's all it goes.
All right, that's all we got, guys. We are so sorry. We're going to definitely scrap this one after everybody watches it. We're going to scrap it. We're going to get rid of it. So everybody that's on, you're
live
on.
edition only.
That's right. You have to get, pay-per-view to watch this one. We're gonna put it under bloopers.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it'd be pretty funny if I kept all the bloopers that we have had.
I know, right?
All right, so we're going to talk about today. I know we're a few minutes behind, obviously, but we wanted to talk about witnessing. About going out and actually speaking with someone. Let me actually turn this off because I got wrong screen on there. There we go, so everybody can see you. We're going to talk about witnessing, and because listen, it's a big issue. It's how do you minister to somebody? How do you speak to somebody? And what are the guidelines? What's the direction? How do we do this? Because all of us have family. We've got friends. We've got people that we know. Most of us have come out of some sort of other name, denomination, maybe some out of none of that. But then how do you minister to people? And what do you say?
Find the truth, man, right? You want to share it. We have to.
Yeah.
Hide that light under the bushel.
It's important. You have to share the truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yet, I think, and this is we're definitely gonna show you guys some scripture, right? We're gonna definitely get into some scripture, but at the same token, we're also going to share some of our personal experience. So it's going to be a little bit different manner. I'm going to talk more about just because over the years you learn, right? Over the years you understand more and more. And certainly, now that we understand academically, if you want to use that term, what we understand now, it changes everything, changes the whole game. So, I think one of the first things, because most of us have come out of another denomination, another name, another way of doing things. Our basic understanding was as soon as you, and I'm just going to use the term because it's just a term people know. As soon as you accept Him as Lord and Savior, you then have to tell somebody. You want to witness. You want to tell somebody, and there is this. This concept of witnessing and this idea, and I don't know if it's never ever happened to me, but this seems to be kind of what's put forward, that at some point you're going to get to talk with somebody and you're going to bring them to a decision, and in that instant they're going to say a prayer, and then that's witnessing, and then it's over and it's done, and then you move on to the next individual. But as we've learned and understood, that's not witnessing. That may be trying to make a convert, but that's not the same thing. That's not what I think the Master was referring to when he said that we are to send this message out as a witness to the world.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it makes you feel better about, feels like you did something, right?
Yeah, there definitely is that part of it. And you know what? So I think I can hear you just a little bit better. Go ahead, bro.
I was just saying, right? So I think in that aspect, when you go to Walmart and you want to share with that person online, when the Christian don't, you feel better when you left. It's just an emotional pickup, But at the end of the day, what did it do,
No, it you're right. It was an emotional thing, and that doesn't, and it might feel good to you for the moment, but is that actually witnessing, right? Is that actually fulfilling what the Great Commission, because that's what we call it, the Great Commission, right? To go out and to tell the world about what this story is about that the Messiah, and that's the other thing. You have to know the story, right? That's key. Now we realize that's key. You really have to know the story,
Exactly.
and enough of the story to really accurately, portray it to somebody, to reveal it to them. But even before that, right? I part of it is also knowing your audience. Well, you know what? Even scrap that. Before we get to even knowing your audience, Yeshua's words on the whole issue of witnessing start off with what is it? Matthew. Let me jump over here. Yeah, Matthew 5:16. Because this really is the key. Sorry, I'm doing a couple of things here at the same time. Matthew 5 and verse 16. Of course, computer's slow. It's like, come on, man. What else can I shouldn't say it, right? What else can go wrong? Matthew 5:16, and this is, and it's more than just 5:16, because let's start at like verse 14. Here's the words of the Master concerning witnessing, because that's really what this is. This is witnessing from a biblical context. Mm-hmm. You are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain. To be hidden on a mountain, right? Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, a menorah, and it shines to all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and praise your Father who is in heaven. So number one, I mean, just like, right off the bat, the most important principle there is that you have to live it.
That's right.
Because if we're not living it, it doesn't matter what you say.
That's right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you know.
Whitewashed tombs, right?
Whitewashed tombs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you know. It becomes. And listen, people know that they can tell. They'll see. And this is what the Master says. They're going to see how you live. And if we're not living it, if we're not that people, and by living it, you got to. What does that mean? Well, it means when he says, "Let men see your works," we now know that what he's talking about is Torah.
Amen. That's right.
Right. That is what he's talking about. But he's not. He doesn't mean, going to the temple and giving a sacrifice. That's not the Torah he's referring to. He's not talking about any of the temple issue stuff. He's talking about your life. What you do at home, how you are with your family, how you are with your friends, how you are at your job. And if you're hiding it under a basket or a bushel, and what he's basically saying, if you try to be one thing before God, and something else in front of other people, you're hiding your light. That's so right. And I know this is elementary, and everybody should know this, but this is big, because this comes right from the Master.
Yeah, and I think we've all experienced that in our lives. Those that right now are walking in spirit and truth, because even when our old friends from Christendom come back in and they want to do something, on the Shabbat, and we don't participate in those things, going out to dinner or going shopping, and but they realize that they see it, because I'm seeing more and more people asking me to pray for them, than they ever have in their life. And so I think that they see the truth, right? I mean, they see that you're closer to Yah than you've ever been in your entire life. So there's got to be something real, yet they don't want to, they don't want to go into it, but yet they can see it. So I really think it's big time. The first step is us, right? Continuing following his instructions, and that's going to be the number one thing I think that's going to attract people or repel them,
No doubt. I 100% agree with that. that our lifestyle. So let's take that off the table just for a second, and let's get into the actual. All right, so now you're living it, right? Now you're doing, and again, by living it, you're showing love, you're showing mercy, you're being wise with people, you're being compassionate to people, you're a good husband, you're a good man, you're a good woman, you're a good son, a good daughter. You're doing those things according to the instruction, the way the Master has asked us to live with one another. You help somebody on the side of the road. They got a flat tire. They've got, you've got the time, the opportunity.
Even on Shabbat.
Yeah, even on Shabbat, right? Even on Shabbat,
yeah.
Especially on Shabbat. What other day is there for good works? That's what Shabbat's supposed to be about. So you're doing all of those things, right? And again, it's different from what most people would think, but you're doing them, and so people see something in you. All right, let's put that aside for a second. Let's get into the technical aspect of this now. I noticed, and let me pop this up. This is also in Matthew, and it's chapter 23. And I'm sorry, I'm scrolling on the screen with everybody looking, but I'm doing a couple of things here at the same time. That's Habakkuk. I'm way off. Matthew, and it's chapter 23, and verse 34. Now we just recently went over this on Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. Now this is when Yeshua is scolding the Pharisees. It's the whole woe chapter. Woe, you scribes and Pharisees, etc., etc., etc. And then he gets to a part where he's telling them, you guys are responsible for all the blood from Abel all the way to Zechariah. You guys are murderers, yes, etc., etc., etc. And then he tells them what he's going to do. Right? And he's already told, and then we find out, obviously, later on in the Great Commission, he's going to send the disciples out. They are the fulfillment, or at least the initial fulfillment of this verse. And listen to what the Master says. Because of this, see, I send you prophets and wise men and scholars of Scripture. Some of them you will kill and impale, and some of them you shall flog in your congregations and persecute from city to city. So this is the Master sending out the disciples to go be a witness. Now, you notice that he gives like sort of different categories here. There's the wise man. There's the scholar of Scripture, right? Yeah. And I think, and then there's the prophet. And by prophet, we would probably think of it better as preacher. The one who preached, the one who speaks forth. The wise man, the one with godly intelligence. The scholar, obviously the one who knows the Scripture. And, wise men, I would think like Peter and prophet, Peter and James. But scholar of Scripture, I think we're definitely talking about the Apostle Paul here. And there were probably even others. But the story we get, right, in the book of Acts is about Saul and all the stuff that he does, and when you go to the to the account, and let me just let me change this just for a second, make it a little bit easier. And when you go to the account, and I think it is in Acts chapter 9, which is the story of Saul. Mm-hmm. And again, Acts chapter 9, and I'm thinking, I don't remember what verse it is, so I'll have to quickly try to scroll through and find it. But when he finally, when Ananias comes to him, I think I went too far. Here it is, verse 15 of chapter 9. Let me pop this up so people can see it. This is Ananias. So Saul, right, he has his whole Damascus Road thing. He's blinded, and he sends Ananias to go minister to him. And when Ananias gets here, he says, and the master says to Ananias to him, but the master said to him, go, for Saul is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before nations, sovereigns, and the children of Israel. So, and normally we just read that, and then we kind of just go on, and then there's the whole story of Saul. But later on, and I know we're putting a whole bunch of scriptures together, so just bear with me for a second. Later on,
While you,
go ahead, bro.
no, while you were doing that, I just wanted to bring up, I think that's pretty key, because there's some people I remember listening to not too long ago that denied Paul as an apostle because Yeshua didn't handpick them, but they're wrong. I mean, you see, Yeshua spoke to him directly. You know?
I just don't get that. I just don't get that. And I know there was a some people that had a big following, lots and lots of people following them, and then all of a sudden they just went totally off the rails.
Yeah.
And unfortunately are still totally off the rails, which is honestly another lesson about how not to witness.
Yeah.
A novice should not be witnessing. Someone that does not have, the understanding, has taken the time to truly get this, who's truly grounded, but that's another story, another time. But here in Galatians chapter 2, and let me put this up for people to see, chapter 2 and verse 8. Now this is Saul later on giving us the account of what's going on in Galatians. So Saul is sent to kings, to nations, to Gentiles. Saul was sent to the Gentiles, but he was also sent to the house of Israel. He's a scholar. So to me, it would make sense why Yah is sending him to both the Jew and to the Gentile.
Definitely, yeah.
And then here in Galatians chapter 2 and verse 8, it says, Paul says, for he, meaning the master, who worked in Kepha, Peter, to make him an emissary to the circumcised, that's to the Jew, also worked in me for the nations. And what you begin to realize is that there's Yah used each of them for a different audience. Now Saul, no doubt, he dealt with the Jews, and we're going to talk about this in the book of Thessalonians as we go through it. But he had a lot of hardship dealing with the Jews. It got really, really bad.
What do you think about, I mean, I honestly think at that point, the reason why Peter wasn't, mainly with Gentiles is because he still had things to work out. He was still following traditions of the men and we see that in this current chapter because Paul calls him out, right?
Well, he calls him out. Certainly, he definitely had some issues that he had to get rid of. But I think maybe even bigger than that, and I think this is kind of what I'm getting to, is you have to know your audience, right? And anybody who does sales, and I'm not saying we got to go we're selling Yah, even though that is the way it has been presented for a long time, that you're selling Yah. But we'll talk about that. But let's say in sales, or maybe you've heard the term where people are saying something and you say, listen, you need to read the room, right? You need to understand who the people are that are around you and what you're saying. And a good salesman does that. A good salesman reads the room. And again, I'm not saying that we need to be good salesmen. This is just an example. I'm going to get all sorts of emails on this. No, I'm not saying that we need to go sell Yah. Not at all. Because honestly, it's really not, it's not us that's making anybody do anything. Right? If the Father doesn't call you,
that's
it and many are called. And we know the rest of that, few are chosen. But you do have to know your audience. And because there is a different way of speaking to the Jew. Now, we're just talking about the first century. We're talking about what's written in the book in front of us. There's a different way of talking to the Jew than it is talking to the Gentile. And I submit that now, obviously, we're 2,000 years away. And culture's changed, right? Time has changed. Things have gone. The message doesn't. The message is the same, but cultures have changed, and so today, there still needs to be. We still need to be able to read the room, right? Because if I was going to speak to someone who was Jewish, I would speak to them very differently than I would speak to someone who, let's say, is Christian, who still doesn't understand the whole story, that this is the God of Israel, that Messiah is the God of Israel come in the flesh. It would be an entirely different conversation. And again, it must be preempted first with my works, first with what you do and how you live. Which, if that's the case, then this isn't so much, as we've been told, just go out and tell anybody. Yeah. Right? Just go out and get a box and sit on a street and start, you do that.
Megaphone,
Yeah, megaphone, and people are going to think, hey, you're nuts. If we're supposed to let our light shine, then he's talking about relationships. He's talking about people at your job, people at your school, people maybe you ride the bus with, people that know you, that will start to see who you are.
That you're set apart, yeah.
And listen, some of us have friends and acquaintances within the Jewish community, and if you do, you know how difficult it is to share anything. And let's stay on that for a second, because if I was going to minister to someone who was Jewish, again, you got to read the room. You got to know, because if you say Yeshua to them, if you say Jesus to them, there is a whole 2,000 years of history of Christianity, in particular Christianity, doing horrific things to the Jewish people wherever they went, under the banner of the cross.
So not to mention failing the Deuteronomy 13 test, is what they perceive from Christendom.
And that's So they listen to us and they'd say, nah, But now 2,000 years later is not the same as Paul being sent to the Jews of the first century. They're not the same people. They have a different experience. This is 2,000 years later. So the Jews of the first century, they believe a Messiah is coming, right? They've heard the stories that have come out of Jerusalem. They've heard what happened in the book of Acts and all the rest of that, and so there's maybe and there is no persecution that has come from a religious group with that name that shuns them off. Now, a lot of Jews were shunned off because they were tied up in the traditions of the fathers. That's something different. And they still are today. And very, very much they still are today. But you have an added element over 2,000 years of history where, from the Crusades and wiping out the Jews, from the Inquisitions and wiping out the Jews, from the Jews being chased all over Europe and wiping them out, from the Russians wiping out the Jews, and it's just, it's this continual persecution that has gone on that, to the Jewish mind, Yeshua, and it's probably not even Yeshua, it's more Jesus. But even if you say Yeshua, there's just a wall that goes right up. Because if that's who you are, and they're thinking that's who you are, it's your ancestors that did this to my ancestors. And if that's, and they look at us because this is the way we've kind of, when I say us, I mean, people that are believers in the Messiah, they look at us as an entirely different religion.
Yeah.
Different God. It is not the same God. It has nothing to do with Moses. It's got nothing to do with commandments. When in reality, it is. It is the same God. It's still the same words from Moses. It's still the same commandments. And they're commandments. They're not suggestions, right?
Yeah. And 119 had a good meme, I think, last week that had that on there, right?
Yeah, they're commandments. They're not instructions. So I think, if you have a friend, if there's someone from the Jewish world that you're befriending, I mean, just a friend, just, living the way you're supposed to be living, doing what you're supposed to be doing. When Yah gives you that opportunity to actually share, to actually speak, if it was me and I was speaking to someone, another rabbi, another teacher, or just somebody who knows their history, I think one of the first things I would say is, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry for all that has gone on in the name of, and actually I think there's a word that they use now in Judaism. It's kind of like a slang word. I forgot exactly what it means, but it's sort of derogatory word to Yeshua, and I think it's Yehu. They say Yehu, and it means, I forgot what the actual term, but I know it's derogatory, and they use that in the place of the name Yeshua. In the place of the name Jesus, they call it Yehu, and somebody can look that up. You can probably easily find it online. So there is this animosity, and I got to say, rightfully earned.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Rightfully earned against Christianity, against this idea of the one who died on the cross, because the way witnessing has gone on for 2,000 years is the witnessing has been, he came and started an entirely different religion.
That's right.
And all the water under the bridge over the last 2,000 years is from an entirely different religion that is absolutely antagonistic, prejudiced, angered against, did malice to, hurt the Jewish people.
That's right.
And they're right. That's what happened. So
yep.
I would start off with something like that. But trying to get the person to understand that is not who I am. Neither is that the person that you read about in what we call the New Testament: Matthew,
That's right.
Mark, Luke, and John.
Yep, has nothing to do with our Messiah. Yep.
It has nothing to, and I would even put it as the Messiah. And again, you got to have wisdom. You got to be a wise man as to when you share this, how you share this. But at some point, I would try to get them to understand this is a Jewish story. That's what this is. Yeshua, I know this is kind of funny, Yeshua was not Italian. And nothing.
That wasn't Italian bread on the Last Supper?
No, that was not semolina. As much as I love semolina, that's not what it was, right? But this is, in fact, a Jewish story. And so what really has to happen, and again, you can't even really begin to minister to somebody, let's say who's Jewish, unless you've gone back and you've done your Torah portions, you've read Moses, you've read the Psalms, you've read Samuel and Kings and Isaiah, and you've taken much time learning, and you've let your fruit grow. All of that preparation has to happen first before Yah gives you a real audience with someone that you could really...
And just having that understanding, when they say, well, why did he rise from the dead? You can explain to them first fruits, with the first fruits, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Because it's a Jewish story.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a Jewish story. And so when you look over history, what has happened is, as far as the witnessing end of it, we've removed this whole thing. We've excised it from the Jewish story. That it and maybe a better way of saying is a Hebrew story, right? It's a Hebrew story. It's a House of Israel story. It's always been. It still is today, and so that's how I would start off, and then slowly showing that this, which is exactly what Saul winds up then doing with other Jews and other synagogues, is going back to the Torah. And slowly showing them, look, this is what was said, and this is what happened. But, again, that's not something that, you're just going to meet somebody who's, wearing, who is Jewish on the street, and you're going to start telling them that, because you're going to get nowhere with that. That's not evangelism. That's not discipleship.
Matter of fact, and if you're in certain neighborhoods in Brooklyn, you might get they might escort you out of their neighborhood real fast.
This is very true. This is very true. So you got to know your audience. You really, really have to know your audience, because it's different. See, because if I was going to minister to someone who is who's really who's still within Christianity the way we understood it before, I have a very, very different approach.
Oh yeah.
You know, and still, I mean, yeah, they still have to know this is a Hebrew story. There's no doubt about it. But again, know your audience.
Yeah,
You know,
I think both groups still think it's a different, Elohim or God, because Christians think that Father was a little bit angry and a different God in the beginning, and Yeshua comes and he's a whole different. And that's why I think what was pretty cool is if you really think about it, to the Christian world, John 3:16 is probably more important for them to see that Yah so loved the world, right? Because if he's a Yah that didn't love and he wasn't the same God, right? Because they separated everything that was back then, and this is now. I've seen it in so many people on YouTube, not YouTube, on Facebook with weird posts that that was the God of vengeance and evil and all that, and it's like whoa, or they question him. Why did he do this? If he would have spoke directly to people, and they start putting all these characteristics in Father, and it's like you do realize it's the same Elohim from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, that's a big point. That really is a big point, because that's not how I learned it. Yeah, that's not how I was taught. I was taught that was then.
Yeah.
This is now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess in the back of our minds, we knew there was a relationship. We said the word Father, but nobody connected that to Mount Sinai.
That's right. And if you allow me just to piggyback real fast, and Christendom, they don't understand because their eyes were in their belief, and this is another thing I've seen is, why would Yah judge us according to the Torah, but yet he gave the Jews something that they could, or the Hebrews something that they couldn't even do, right? He gave them something that was so impossible to do that, and think about it, it's not true. Deuteronomy, was it chapter 30, right? It's not too difficult. Read I don't know if we have time, but Deuteronomy 30, 10 through 13. Pull it up because that's their argument. It's too difficult to do. Thank God for grace. Thank God,
Deuteronomy 30, you said, bro?
Yeah, verse 10 through 13. You can go through it deeper, but just for time's sake, those 3 verses hit the point.
Sure, let me pop this up so everybody can see. Verse 10 says, if you obey the voice of your Elohim to guard his commandments, to do them, right? And his laws, which are written in this book of the Torah, if you turn back to Yah, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your being, for this command which I am commanding you today is not too hard for you, nor is it far off. It's not in the heavens to say, who shall ascend into the heavens for us and bring it to us and cause us to hear it so that we do it, nor is it beyond the sea to say, who shall go over the sea for us to bring it to us and cause us to hear it so that we do it. And yeah, you're right. One of the real important things, and listen, we were all there at some point. We all came to the realization, wait a minute, these are the same words, because you can find these words in Romans. You can find these same words in 1 John.
Yeah.
You can find these similar words in Yeshua's words. And, if you love me, obey the commandments. Well, what commandments is he talking about? And so, when it comes to ministering to someone who's Christian, see, because my experience was when we came to the Lord, or when most, maybe not all, because listen, again, it's an issue of being called and chosen, right? If you really, really do want to know, you're hungry, and you're going to learn, and you're gonna study yourself. You're going to want to understand, right? You're going to eat stuff up. You're going to try to listen and get information in, which is right and good, and I think that's what led us down the path that all of us have come. Because the more we understood truth, the more we realized, wait a minute, I've been told this or that. But I think, at least my experience was, a lot of what was taught before, or what I understood before about evangelism, was very much, you've heard the term a carrot and a stick. Like if you want to get somebody to do something, you offer them the carrot and first, and you try to get them to do it, and then if they don't do it, you
Dangle
offer
it away.
Then you offer the stick. Yeah, you put it away, and then you offer the stick. But it's not that a stick is being offered here, but it's the concept of the carrot. And I think a lot of what we were told prior to was the carrot. That if you say this prayer, if you acknowledge him, you're going to get this and you're going to get that. And he's going to bless you and he's going to give you health and he's going to give you wealth and he's going to give you prosperity and he's going to be there to heal your every disease and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And
he's going to give you that parking spot closer to the front door of Walmart.
So that's so random.
I know.
But yeah, I guess you look at that as, oh, I'm blessed. I got that parking spot.
Well, they don't want an Elohim, and like I said, we've all been there. We used to want a genie. That was it.
Right. Rub the Bible 3 times, and there it goes. And so, a lot of the reason why a lot of people come is for the carrot. And who wouldn't? Okay, he's going to forgive me. He's going to love me. He's going to bless me in everything I do. I'm going to have his favor. I'm going to have health. I'm going to have wealth. And the list goes on and on and on.
And I don't even have to do anything.
And I don't have to do anything, right? No, I do have to do something. I have to say the prayer. Now, some of us said it, and we really wanted to know who this God was, and I believe, despite all the winds and the waves and all that, Yah led us through all of that to get us to where we are today. But a lot of people. Just like the parable says, some fell by the wayside. Some got burnt up by the sun. Others get choked out by the weeds. It's this continual falling away. Because if that's the God you want, that is just going to give you stuff, which is pretty much, par for the course. Some of the biggest churches there are in the world, that's the teaching they have.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're telling people. What he can give you now, how he can make your life so good now. When in fact, Yeshua says, if we follow him, you're going to have problems. You're going to be persecuted. You're going to be tried. And he's telling the apostles, you're going to be flogged. They're going to kill you.
I love Paul's rant in was it 2 Corinthians?
Over what?
And he goes through how he was in the ocean for a night and a day and a half. He got the what was the whipping? 39 minus 1.
The flogging.
Twice he had that.
Yeah,
all these things. It's like, what?
You read the stories of these guys, and it's not all about prosperity and blessing and healing. That's another one that we now listen to. Does God heal? Of course he can. Of course he does. He is Elohim. But let's be realistic, Not and I know we hear this again and again. Just pray and God's going to heal you. How many people have you seen in your lifetime? And I'm talking according to what we see that Yeshua does, what we see that the apostles do at the beginning. Have you seen somebody lay hands on somebody and then in an instantaneous, I'm not talking about, and we should pray for people that are sick, that are hurting, going to the hospitals, all the rest of that kind of stuff. But I'm not talking about healing that takes like 6 weeks. I'm not talking about going and having a surgery or a sickness. And yes, people are praying for you and you get better over the next, 3 months or whatever it is. And that's amazing. And I think we should pray for people like that. But what we're telling people, or what you hear as evangelism is, no, we're going to lay hands. And how many, and we did it, I did it. You see almost every one of these congregations or all of the groups at some point will go up to what we call an altar call. And whoever that leader is, that person who then becomes the focus of everything is, knocking them down, putting hands on them, praying. Yeah. How many actual, true, real, sincere healings do you remember in your Christian lifetime?
No, none. And
I
the
can't
sad
point to
part
one.
is it's put on you, right? It's you didn't have enough faith.
Right.
There's some type of secret sin in your life. And the funny thing is those people that go there and they go up because they're really believing what this guy is saying behind the pulpit, and they go up there for that. What happens? They leave that questioning Yah.
Sure.
Is this right?
Sure.
They've done more damage than anything, at that point, because I remember, or if it didn't happen in that second, take them to the overflow room and keep on praying for the next hour and a half, having 20 people, while you're up there with a decrepit back, you can barely stand. You got 20 people leaning on you, and you're dripping in sweat, saying, "Get off me! I'm hurting." Leave me alone. It's
this really sounds like you're giving a testimony
personal,
here.
Personal experience. But,
that really sounds like a personal. So you've experienced it.
Yeah.
And
then,
again, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. I am in no way saying that Yah cannot heal, that he does not heal. Sure he does. And
yeah,
man, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, but we see. Look at how did Isaac? He was blind, man. He couldn't even see his own sons. He couldn't even tell unless he felt the hair, the fake hair on the back of Jacob's neck.
Yeah.
King David dies. Every day he can't even get warm. He's freezing. He's had to sleep. Everyone knows the story. I mean, these are our patriarchs that we read about in the Word, and they suffered. They were flesh. You get old. You get problems. You have them. That's life. I can imagine Jacob had to walk with a limp after wrestling with Yah, and after he touched his hip. So I'm sure that was something that he walked with the rest of his life.
For the rest of his life. So. Does Yah heal every single? Now, of course, you can point to Deuteronomy says that he's going to heal you from all your diseases, and you won't have any of the diseases that the Egyptians had come upon you. That was if they obeyed his instruction.
Mm-hmm.
If they did everything he said. And historically, we know that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, they had the diseases of the Egyptians put on them and so forth and so on. And we are living in a world that, and even we're just starting to learn. We're just starting to walk in it. We're just starting to understand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of that carrot stuff, that these are the things that you can expect. But you're right. When it doesn't happen, then what happens? Then where is your faith? And I've seen plenty of people just, walk away. Just kind of left after that, thinking, you guys are kind of out there. So I think one of the things when you minister to somebody who is coming from that background, that religious background, whether it's, and honestly, it's even different when you're talking about somebody from Catholicism, somebody from evangelicalism, somebody from Pentecostalism. You got to know your audience. You got to know the person, which is why I think just this blanket, just throw it out there, and you all need to come. I don't think that's what he was talking about when he says let your light shine. I think he was talking about your personal relationships, because there's so much more you can do with the one person that that's open. And of course they got to be open again, but and it may take weeks and months and years, and you may get to disciple one person your whole lifetime, or 10 or 20. But if you do one or two, and they get it, and with a lot of coming out of that religious background that we had, there's a lot you got to unlearn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've got to be careful of, that I've seen a lot of us do, is pounce on them about Christmas, about Easter at the wrong times.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You should share the truth of what Easter really is. We should, and those are great witnessing tools. We should share the truth of what Christmas is. But probably the worst time, to do that
is a week before.
Yeah, it's like the week before, because all you're going to do is tick them off.
Yeah, and then their emotions.
And then the emotions get into it.
You're not talking in that, just the open suggest, because people, I was just thinking about that before when you were saying that, because that's why Acts 15 is so perfect, right?
Yeah.
When they,
there's a
starting point.
Very good point, brother. Very, very good point. What's the starting point? What do you do? And again, this is first century, so it's a totally different Gentile world than it is that we have today. Mm-hmm. But the question was, what do you do? What's the first step? and they had to come up with it. They had to figure this out. They had to know their audience, and they knew their audience was doing A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
So tell them not to do A, B, C, and D. And then later on, they would learn.
every week. Yep.
Yeah, later on, they would learn that A, B, C, and D come right out of the Torah. They're not new things. They're not some concoction that happens after Golgotha. It's something that has been consistent all the way through. So I think it's very different if you're gonna speak to someone who's Jewish. You got to have a different approach. You got to really think it out. You got to really ask God to give you wisdom, because remember, He said, "I'm going to send wise men, I'm going to send scholars, and I'm going to send preachers, prophets." And you got to be a wise man, or you got to be a preacher, or you got to learn to be a scholar, and you got to know your audience. A novice, like somebody from a different religion, that's a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
Right? Because now there's not even the any common ground. So my approach would probably be just the concept of God.
That's right.
And even language, we've got to be careful with. When it comes to speaking, whether you're talking to someone who's Jewish or someone who's coming out of a Christendom, or someone who has no knowledge of anything. Even our language you got to be careful with that, because if you're trying to speak to someone who is, let's say, from I don't know, doing Joel Osteen or something like that, and you start using Yah, and you start using Elohim, and you start using Hebrew words, you've lost them. And I get it. This is may not rub everybody the right way, because we're learning and we're saying, no, the name is important. It is important. There's no doubt about it. It's important. But they've got no concept of that. They have no understanding of that, and they speak English, or German or French or whatever the language is, and we have to start with where they are. But they've got to be universal concepts. So when you say God, that's, for me, the way I use God or Lord very, very often, not because I'm trying to diminish who He is. In no way. If you don't realize when I speak that I'm talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if you don't realize that, then you're missing the point.
Yeah.
But I use those other terms because I know the whole audience aren't people that have been in walking in Torah for 4 or 5 years. But they're people who have are coming out of other things, and so if you only use, and I'm not saying you can't use those, but if you only speak in those terms, you're probably going to confuse more people and or push them away than to truly get them to understand. And then as time goes on, you begin to tell them this is why we say this, or this is what the origin of. Then you can get into all that stuff later. But if it was somebody that had no concept, that's where I'd start. You got to find the common denominator, and the common denominator is creation.
Yeah, and I think
life.
That's why it's key to what you said before. The key people that we should be telling this to are people that come across our path very often. Because you walk up to someone in BJ's or wherever at Costco, and you start saying that Yeshua, and they're gonna be like, "What'd you just say?"
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, in this world, everyone knows Messiah as Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, it's not going to profit anything to do that in a store. But when you do have these people, you can have a time and sit down and show them the word. Then there's that process. And by the way, His name isn't Jesus. It's and then you can teach them these things. But if we start off right from the back, because we know, we learned, we know the truth, they don't. So I think for and this is for witnessing tools. I think there's some channels that have been around that that start to go back and forth, and you can have a statement and say, we know Him as Jesus formerly, but His name is now. But when you're trying to share and you really do have an opportunity to make a disciple, you need to do it in steps.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it all at once. We never did. We didn't. I think for the first 2 or 3 months when I even came to Torah, I remember even talking to you, and I was still, going to church. And I was like, bro, I was like, there's a guy who referenced the lady that's in Hebraic roots, and she was like, you guys don't even know his name. You call him Jesus. And I was like, isn't that crazy? And you were like, actually, you're like, well, bro, actually, his name is. And I was just like, wow, because I didn't, get that part. I was learning. And then I realized, wait, whoa. Okay, now this is his name. And then you went forward,
It is a process, and in no way are we suggesting that you compromise, because this is not compromise, because I have heard people say, well, I'm not going to really, if I'm going to talk to a friend, a neighbor, whoever, I'm not going to really tell them all of the other stuff. I'm just going to, we're just going to go with just general, Christian concepts and thoughts just to get them in. That's not right either. You can't you can't fake people in. You can't
That's right.
You can't just come in and then I'll tell you truth later. Now, you got to tell them truth, but you have to be able to communicate in a way that they understand. And yes, as time goes on, they're going to unlearn a lot of things. But if you try to dump everything on somebody, day 1, day 2, day 10, 3 months in, all you're going to do is confuse people. And so, we've got to be careful with that. It's just, what it is? It's something I've seen happen again and again and again. And what that does is that really winds up really kind of causing division.
Yeah.
It really just, I've seen so many people separate themselves over this issue or that issue. We're all learning. Nobody's got this yet. We're rediscovering truth. And we've got to be careful on how we present it. And I know maybe there's people that might have a different opinion on that, but you're allowed to. This is, I don't.
And I think that's why it's
I don't know
pretty cool.
I don't know everything. Go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
No, it's right. That's what I was going to say. If you really look at Acts 15, they didn't have to tell them, the Messiah's name. At that point in time, everyone still knew the Messiah's name.
Well, what's a really good example of that? When Paul goes to Athens, right? And he's with all the statues. Yeah. Right, the God to this, the God to that, the God to that, and then there's the statue to the unknown God, right? Well, that statue was not written in Hebrew; it was written in whatever the Greek language was. And yet Saul uses that example to say, well, this unknown God that you're talking about, I know who he is, and then he goes on to explain about the God of creation, the God that created. So he was speaking to them.
At their level.
On their level. Now, of course, he's going to, as time goes on, and unfortunately, they didn't really even want to listen to it. But of course, he would, bring them along. But look where he started. He started on their level. So, there's a little nuance here. We're not saying compromise. We're not saying, not if at all, explain why you say what you say. But if you make that the focus, you may just lose them. You got to start somewhere. You got to start with the calling, and then the calling comes into being chosen. And if they're hungry, because ultimately, you know what this thing really comes down to? You do not come to the Son unless the Father draws you. And that's really, and so you got to know when to stop. When if you have been trying, if you have been trying to reach out, and you just get rebuffed and rebuffed and rebuffed, maybe it's time to move on. Go to the next one. And that's not saying that the seed won't catch 6 months down the road. But we've also got to, what's that old Kenny Rogers song? You got to know when to hold them.
Hold them.
Know when to fold them.
Yeah.
You do.
But the book of Acts talks about there was a time when Father kind of gave us a wink. We didn't know. Now that we know, right? There's a process that once we know, now we know.
All right. You know what? We've actually gone over time. I wasn't even watching the clock. We've gone over time. I hope I'll give you the last word on this. And there's so much more to talk about. To try to get witnessing down to 1 hour conversation is just it's impossible. But we wanted to share some of our own kind of thoughts on it, and then listen to your thoughts. Let us know in the comments what you guys think and stuff like that. But brother, I'll give you the last word on that. What do you think?
No, I think it was a good discussion, and I think we need to realize too, like you said, the Father, chooses these people. We're not gonna, go around and save the world, if you want to use that phrase. But just be a doer of the word and let your light shine. Really is the key. I think that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Let it attract, because light does two things, and I think it's a gross analogy, but if you have roaches, you put the light on, they all scatter, right? That's what's going to happen.
You're right.
Or,
that's a gross analogy.
Right? Or you put the light on, and it'll attract every bug. It works both ways. At night, all the moths. So light either attracts or it will repel. And just live it. Live the life. Amen.
Ultimately, yep. Amen, bro. I love you, man.
I love you too, man. Love everyone out there. Sorry about all the problems we had today.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. All right, man. I love you, bro. Shabbat shalom, man.
You too, man. Shabbat shalom.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I know a little bit different than we normally do, and we're not trying to. Hopefully, if we offended you, we're sorry. We're not trying to offend. We're trying to work through this thing, trying to find out, how this thing works, how we're supposed to be living this. So I hope it benefited somebody in some way. Again, we apologize for all the technical stuff, and hopefully we'll get this under control very, very soon. But guys, enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning for our weekend service. Got a really neat message for you. I think you guys will enjoy. Don't forget, if you are not subscribed, subscribe, hit that button. If it's red, hit it. It'll turn white. That means you're subscribed. Hit the bell so that we know that you'll know that we are posting up something live. Guys, have a great, great Sabbath. Enjoy yourselves. Shabbat shalom.